going to take a toll. All right. I didn't realize that there was this amount of injuries on this football team. And a guy that we go to all the time, and you guys see him all the time, every single show in the country, and he's really made and carved out a great reputation for himself here when it comes to covering all these injuries and these sports injuries. And we've known him for a long time here. He's our friend, and we bring in Dr. Chao now. And Dr. Chao, I appreciate you doing this for me on the fly here. Thank you so much. And I'll get right to it here. It was reported before the show even started, a couple minutes before, that Jalen Carter was going to go under a procedure. And it said, when I said week to week, I don't want to play doctor. I'm going to let you do that. And it said procedure. Does that mean scope that we're talking here, or does that mean something more? Give us your insight on what you think that means.
Dan, thanks for having me on. And the timing for me, this is the noon hour. So lunchtime in between patients here. That's the scrubs and in the office. So thank you for that. And I appreciate you, my man. And you're on it, Dan. You get it. I think I'm going to call you Dr. Sileo. I'm looking at Twitter and X, and everyone's like, what kind of surgery did he have? Oh, my gosh. Everyone made the assumption of surgery. You have to be very careful with words. Remember when Aaron Rodgers said, are you vaccinated? I've been immunized, and media didn't pick on it. They got mad at him and the whole thing. Adam Schefter did not say surgery. He said procedure. What does that mean? That means he had something done. I don't believe it was true surgery. I believe it was platelet-rich plasma injections. And that's why you need rest after platelet-rich plasma injections. Let me add to that. As I do my research from afar, and remember, it's insider knowledge, not insider information. I do have some Eagles contacts. I may see some of them when I bring my son to the game on Monday at SoFi, but I'm not calling them for insider information. That's not proper. This is insider knowledge, analyzing things. It's like you looking at a defense and saying that was the wrong front to be in, as opposed to someone calling you with that, right? That kind of stuff. And with this, I saw the locker room interviews with Jalen Carter. He didn't have a sling on, okay? And on top of that, there's no way you do bilateral shoulder surgeries. Why? Because if you do, commonly with shoulder surgeries, you do a block. You can't block both sides, because what if you injured, incidentally, a lung on one side? You'd be okay. You injure a lung on both sides? That's no bueno. So there's no way he had bilateral shoulder surgery. This is a procedure called platelet-rich plasma, which does require a couple of weeks of rest. So basically what I read into what the Eagles are saying, what Jalen Carter is saying, is he's been dealing with a shoulder injury for a while, on and off throughout the whole season. He didn't play particularly well on Friday, Black Friday. It's week 13. The Eagles are in a pretty good position right now. Not perfect, not clinched, but pretty good. They're trying to do what? Win another Super Bowl, not trying to win a division. They want players healthy. And Howie Roseman has historically been very smart and strategic with all of this. And it's let's get Jalen Carter right. And 85% Jalen Carter can play, but 100% Jalen Carter can propel us to win another Super Bowl. And I think that's what they're trying to do. And why both? Well, if you're going to get shut down for one side and the other side sore too, why not? And I think that's what raised everyone's ire. Bilateral procedure. Schefter's reporting is absolutely accurate. I think people interpreted procedure to mean different things. Now, I don't know this as a fact, Dan. This is just my analysis of the situation.
Is the plasma more of a maintenance thing then that we're talking here? Is it something like that you're maybe not as strong and you're trying to get more strength with the rest and the procedure? Because I had a scope during the regular season once. I played in a Cardinal game. They scoped me on a Tuesday, but I played that Saturday because it was just a small shaving of my patella there. So they were able to shave, or the thing that's on top of my knee, they shaved that a little bit. And so for me, I was able to play. So is that what we're talking about here? Just a little maintenance on his shoulders?
Sort of, no, but of course you're from a different era, right?
Right on.
and you and your teammates played through everything back in the good old days when you had to walk 5 miles to and from practice uphill both ways, right?
Right on.
Right. But
right.
my point is, look, PRP, in some ways, the advantages of PRP over cortisone is that there's an anti-inflammatory and a healing component. The disadvantage is the healing component isn't immediate. It takes time. Thus, the week-to-week designation. Look, what's going to happen to Jalen Carter? I doubt he goes on IR because I think he could play in a couple weeks. But in a couple weeks, if his shoulder is great, they'll let him play. If his shoulder is getting there but not there, they may not wait a week or two longer to let it get all the way better for a big playoff run. Now, if the Eagles lose to the Chargers and lose their next game, maybe an 85% Jalen Carter plays, right? Because you want to win the division. There's still something to play for. But if the Eagles are sailing along without him, look, once again, you're trying to repeat Super Bowl. You're not just trying to win the division. And I think this is the calculation for the Eagles. So the news isn't as bad as it seems, is what I'm trying to say.
If it was the Super Bowl this weekend, could he play having had that procedure?
If it were the Super Bowl this weekend, I believe, and once again, this is insider knowledge, not insider information, big difference. I believe he would have had a cortisone injection and played because cortisone works more quickly. Okay. The PRP is more for the long term. If you look at the words of reporters and the words of Jalen Carter, this is kind of where you're at. And by the way, Dan, you're getting this first. I actually just cut a video talking about this, but my guys haven't even posted it on X. So you and your listeners, you're getting the breaking news. I haven't tweeted on it. I haven't done anything with it.
Fantastic here. Do you mind? I'm going to ask a couple more because there's a couple more Eagle injuries here. Yeah. I know you're in a break right here. Liz Frank with Lane Johnson, and he's been on IR. He's an older player. He's 35 years old. He's had a lot of wear and tear. As a team physician, you were there with the Chargers, obviously, so you have what you're I would call it like pitch count, guys. Do you put a guy like that on a pitch count? Are you looking to do the same thing that you said? Look, we're trying to win a Super Bowl here. I need him healthy for the postseason here. So maybe you do compromise a couple games here by not having that star player in there. Liz Frank, give me what you think that is for an older player, what that means towards Lane when he comes off that.
Liz Frank is a midfoot injury. I won't get into why it's called Liz Frank. It's very historical over time. It has to do with Napoleon, Surgeon General, but nobody cares about that. Okay. It's a midfoot injury. And imagine you have to play football on the balls of your feet. Yeah. You can't play football, offensive lineman, on your heels. Otherwise, you're going to get knocked back on your ass. Someone like Dan Sileo is going to have a field day with you. If you play that. So if you're playing on the balls of your feet, the midfoot has to support you. So what does it have to support? It has to support Lane Johnson's 325 pounds and the DN's 295 pounds and maybe somebody else too, as well as the force of pushing off. That's a lot of stress. Look, what I've seen so far, and you can help me with this, Dan. So far, what I see is Lane Johnson might be the MVP of that offensive line because they don't look the same without him, right? It's not Dickerson. It's not the center probably because look at what's happened to the Eagles without him. Now, I'm not pretending to know protection schemes and what have you, but they don't look like the same team without him. But once again, if you apply my same logic, if this were the Super Bowl this week, would Lane Johnson play? I'm sure he would. Look at what your center did last year through a herniated disc and a nerve issue and played, right? And in pain and injections and so forth, and won a Lombardi with it. Lane Johnson would play. But once again here, do you want to keep going along with an 80% Lane Johnson, or do you want to try and get him closer to 90, 95? Right? I think that's the calculation that's happening here with the Eagles. And that's part of the Jalen Carter thing. I don't think they're taking their opponents for granted the next couple of weeks. That's not what I'm saying. They're playing the long game. We're trying to get another Lombardi, and this is the best path to do that.
How about this, too, with the offensive line? And I wonder how you time this up with, because obviously player health right now, especially with the salaries you see in the game, that's got to match up with the GM, the head coach, and you also have to take player care here because a year ago, Saquon Barkley carried the ball for over 450 carries. Now we're looking at the center with a back injury. You have Landon Dickerson with multiple knee injuries this past offseason, Lane with Liz Frank. It's affected the entire offensive line, and it's even affected Saquon Barkley, who's had 3 knee injuries, by the way, and 3 procedures in the last 6 years. So my question to you is, tush push, running offense, you're seeing the wear and tear. As a guy who looks at these guys and guy who looks at procedures on what to take care of, maintenance for players, how much do you think that the running of the football with 2,000 yards a year ago and the tush push has played a factor on the entire unit? Even Mekhi Becton in Los Angeles, Dr. Chao, he's been out this year with injuries because he was on that line of a year ago. How much do you think that played a factor?
Well, there's no question the game of NFL football is rough. And the more that you are running the ball straight ahead, tush pushing and other things, I look at it this way. The more times you take a double black diamond ski run, the more likely you are to injure your knee, right? You're less likely on the greens and blues. Right. And basically, you're saying with the tush push and all these runs, it's a lot more ski runs down the mountain. Your chances of getting injured are higher. It's simple math there and percentages. Now, one of the things we do at Sports Injury Central, SICScore.com, one of our favorite props for the season this year, and it has nothing to do with not liking the Eagles, their offensive line, or Saquon Barkley. We said it's not repeatable what Saquon did last year, and we took his season totals under on yardage. You can't run a guy into the ground like that. It is not sustainable. And you know this, Dan. I'll ask you this question. I learned this in my first year in the NFL. I don't know if you played against him or not. We had a great running back in San Diego by the name of Natron Means.
Loved him, played against him.
Right? And tough as they come. He didn't step out of bounds. He took hits. But let me tell you something, Dan. I saw him on Mondays, and he could barely walk. Yeah. And what was the reason? If he carried the ball 20 times, how many times do you think he got hit? Guesstimate. I mean, he breaks some tackles, get hits 25, 30 times.
Absolutely. 35, 40 times. You're not even counting pass protection.
Okay. But 35, 40 times by how many different players?
Oh, everyone coming.
By 8, 9 different players. So everybody. He's taking 35 to 40 hits as he's running rough yardage. And the other players on defense are only taking 3 or 4 of those because they're distributed out. Yeah. That's why you can't take all of those hits. That's why, across the river there, the man Jackson Dart needs to get down or get out of bounds. Okay. I mean, like, I don't care how tough you are and what moxie you have. You got to live. Look, 4th and 10, you're going to get that 11th yard to get the first down. By all means, go do it. But when it's 2nd down or 3rd down, you got to protect yourself a little bit. After you've gotten the first down, you don't really need those extra 5 yards. You need to keep yourself healthy.
Couple last questions here for you, Doc. Okay, so on Monday, you're going to see Justin Herbert with a cast on his left hand. You're probably going to see him more in shotgun because, again, as you know, when you put your hand in the center position, boom, that's just going to be probably a little bit too much for him to take on that. So he's going to be in a cast on Monday. In your opinion, what effect do you think that has on him in any way? Is it more with him running and sprint out? Because he averages 30 yards a game when it comes to like his running, because he has the ability to get out. Do you think that limits that? Do you think Harbaugh and the coaching staff will be more in protecting of that? How do you think that'll affect him in Monday night's game?
First of all, yes. On Sunday on our podcast, right at 7:30, as soon as most of the Sunday games are over, 7:30 Eastern time, we said with the likely fracture, he's likely to have surgery. But my bet would be that he would play next Monday. Not because there's one extra day of rest, but you've seen it before, Dan. In my day, I have had quite a number of players return to play 1 week after a metacarpal fracture, open reduction, or tonal fixation, plates with screws. But guess what? A guy like you, we'd put in a club. An offensive lineman, we put in a club. Justin Herbert can't go in a club. He's got to be able to handle the ball a little bit. Sure, you can do one-handed, off-handed handoffs, reverse handoffs, shotgun. It's all shotgun. If they're going tush push or goal line, it's going to be Trey Lance. It's going to be all shotgun. Now, how does that change the Chargers offense? Well, you got to ask an offensive mind better than me. I'm just a doctor here. But that will change the makeup of the Chargers offense and pass pro and what they're going to do. But I also believe that Justin Herbert will, as much as I believe he's tough and as much as I believe that he will play, because remember, he finished the game with it broken with the splint. Now he's got more stability and you can numb it from the incisional pain. The splint will do the job again. That's why I believe he will play. But he won't run the ball. Why? Because even if you are running the ball, you need ball security. He can't hold the ball in the left hand. And you got the way guys punch balls out legally. You don't get penalized if you punch somebody's hand. I mean, if you punch someone in the stomach, you get penalized. But you can't have that. And you can't have him running the ball in his right hand to the left and exposing the ball to the oncoming defenders. You have to have it in the outside arm. And if you're running up the middle, you got to have two hands, right? I mean, so I just don't see him running the ball much. I certainly know designed runs. And also, you just don't want the freak accident of making it worse or displacing what you have fixed. So I don't see him running much. I do see him playing. I do think he can throw the ball effectively, but the nuances of shotgun is what it's going to be about.
Would you be most concerned with him if you're Harbaugh and with Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, that, pressure, him going down, putting his odd hand down, because again, you got to concern yourself for protecting yourself too. So do you give them guys any kind of advice on how they go down like that? Because to me, it'd be more worried about, putting my hand down after getting hit that I could refracture it or fracture it more. I mean,
as a team physician.
Hey, you know what? I guess in my day of me becoming a media guy, I've become soft. I guess we just got to put a Band-Aid on it and go play.
But here's my point to you, Dan, and hopefully I think you run a fun show, and I think having some fun chatter is good, right? As opposed to strict doctor Latin words and stuff. But here's what I say. As a team physician, would I have had a conversation with the athletic trainer and or coaching staff if they asked me about what should happen? Yes. Would I tell the GM that? Yes. What actually comes in the game plan is a different story, right? I love Jim Harbaugh, okay? I don't know Greg Roman. I know Jim Harbaugh really well. He's a great coach. Love him, love his attitude. But here's what I always say. When you clear a player to play football and they have their helmet and their pads and they're on the field, that's like giving your teenager the kids to the car. You can tell them the curfew's at 10 p.m. You can tell them the curfew's at 11. What time will they come home? Look, I don't know, right? I mean, I remember one time we had Antonio Gates. He's allowed me to tell his story. And they said, we got to have him for this game. Okay, but he could get worse. 12, 15 snaps, red zone only is what we agreed upon. By the end of the first quarter, I looked at the head athletic trainer, James Collins, and said, how many plays he played? He goes, I don't know, like 12, 15. We looked at each other like, you going to tell him? You going to tell him? I mean, once they have the headsets on, they've got the keys to the car. You're kind of powerless to go. I mean, you can tell them all you want ahead of time, but then game script comes and this comes and that comes. And so look, is it possible that Herbert runs the ball out of instinct? Sure. I mean, is it possible they design quick passes out of shotgun, but he decides to go second, third read and scramble? It's the game of football. He's got his helmet and pads on, and you can't control that.
Hey, Dr. Chao, I got to tell you quick. Kevin O'Neill, I'm sure you know who he is.
Yes, KO, yes.
Yes, and he was my my guy at Miami and also with the Cowboys.
Love KO.
So, I go like this to Kevin O'Neill. Because I took a big hit. I walk over to the sidelines. He goes, how you doing? I go, I'm doing great. He goes, where are we? I go, well, I like grapes in my salad. He goes, sit down. And he goes, you're not fooling me. And I go, where are we? What city are we? And I go, well, I like grapes in my salad. And he goes like this. Yeah, no, give me the kid's helmet here. Final question for you here. We do run a fun show, but I want to ask you a tough question here. Okay, what you saw on that one particular Monday night, I think it was, or Thursday night game, when you saw Brian Dable go into the tent and you saw that and how you saw him kind of undress the neurologist. I mean, that was kind of a wild moment for me because concussions are a big thing, as you know, in the NFL. The NFL is so frightened of it, and every other team is frightened of it right now. What was your initial takeaway when you saw that coach roll in there and go into that blue tent and then chastise the neurologist?
Well, my take on that was bad look, can happen, shouldn't happen, going into the blue tent. That's like me as a doctor putting on the headset to listen to a call, right? I mean, it just doesn't work that way, right?
Right.
And so I've never had, a head coach do that. Walking in the tent was already bad optics. But in reality, was he just saying, giving the guy a hug and some encouragement? Maybe, right? But it's a bad optics that it looks like you're messing with the process. Bad optics. Really bad optics when he's dressing down. That guy is actually the head team physician. And let me explain something to you. I think it was the pressure of the moment that got to Brian Daboll. And I don't think it was as bad as you thought. Basically, he turned around. When he went into the tent, I guarantee you the head team physician was in the tent because there was a shoulder and head, What was it? And the head team physician would go in there. But once it's determined not to be orthopedic, the head team physician usually leaves it to the primary care doctor in the red hat. So he's out of the tent. Well, Daboll turns around and goes, "What's going on? You're out of the tent. Is he playing or is he not playing?" And he starts to dress him down, saying, "I need to know. It's 3rd down, 4th down. Is he playing or not playing? You left the tent. He must be fine." There was no time for him to say, "Look, I don't do head evaluations. That's the other guys. I'm out of the tent because his shoulder is clear." I think it was a simple misunderstanding from Brian Daboll. He saw that doctor in there the first time, and he's like, "Well, you're out. Is he playing or is he not?" And when he says, "Oh, we don't know yet," he's like, "What do you mean you don't know yet? You're out of the tent." I think it was a simple misunderstanding. They got fined. It's a bad look, but I don't think Daboll meant anything bad by it. It just shows you the pressure of the sideline. Look, any head coach who wanted an answer, didn't have one, and thought he should have one, would dress anyone down like that. It's a pressure-filled environment. But I think the misunderstanding there is he's the head team physician orthopedist. Just because he came out of the tent doesn't mean they're done with the head injury evaluation. And he was like, "Why haven't you guys told me? What's the deal?" He wasn't saying get him back into the game. He was like, "You're out of the tent. Why aren't you telling me yay or nay?" That's kind of what he was saying. So I think it was a bad look, not really actions as bad as it was perceived.
I want to sneak this last one in on you on Jackson Dart. If you were the team physician and you watch the way that guy has played this year, what would be the recommendation? I mean, let me ask: does the general manager and the head coach, they come to you because the Eagles are so concerned about player health? They are. I mean, they don't do a lot in the exhibition season. They really have a lot when it comes to player care. For you, with a style of play like that, what kind of conversations would you have with the head coach and with the general manager, especially when we're talking big money like this, contracts, first-round picks? Surely they confer with you and ask you what your thoughts are and how the player eventually, what kind of health he's going to have as we move forward here. So how do you confer with those men?
Well, one thing is, when asked, obviously give your opinion. But I think it's pretty obvious to the GM and head coaches of the exposure that he takes running the football, right? As a doctor, I don't need to tell him that. But if asked, I would say right after he got his concussion, his concussion, we went on our Sports Injury Central podcast, and I said, let's do a comparison. Take out the preseason where Jackson Dart ran and had a head check. At this point this season, he had 47 runs, and he missed 3 games, but he didn't play the first 3 games. In the games that he played when he got his concussion, he had 47 runs and 3 head injury checks, the last one being a concussion. By comparison, a guy who's played the whole season up to that point in time, Josh Allen, who does run the ball a lot, had 49 rushes and 0 concussion checks, right? So there's a guy that is running the ball but not taking the hits, right? And not taking people on, etc., knowing when to get down and get out of bounds and how to extend plays. That's the nuance that this young guy needs to learn for his own good. Because I don't care if you're bigger than Josh Allen. The defenders are bigger and come flying at you faster too. The Natron Means analogy. There's like 11 of them chasing you, and there's just one of you, and you may dodge the first guy, but the second guy or third guy may get you, kind of deal. And so I do think it's important. And if you look at it, we were down, no offense, on Anthony Richardson with the Colts, saying, though your style of play is not conducive to the NFL. I think any quarterback that runs to gain yardage on a regular basis is taking more double black diamond ski runs. I think any quarterback should be able to run the ball when it's necessary. 3rd and 10 in your own zone. You got to get that 11 yards. You got to do it. Tua Tagovailoa got grief because there was a key play in the red zone where he went head first. This is after his concussion issues. But I don't blame him. It was 4th and 1. He needed to get that extra yard, right? Look, if it was 3rd and 1, slide, you got a 4th down chance. 4th and 1, if he's on your football team, I hate to say it, you want him to go head first, even though he's a quarterback. But you can't do it on 1st down. You can't do it when you already got the 1st down, right? You just have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right? And to play smart that way. No one's trying to change Jackson Dart's style. You still can be a wild card and run, but you got to pick your moments. And I think that's the education that the Giants are clearly trying for.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff. Please tell folks where they can find you, Dr. Chao, because I got to tell you, man, I mean, you really, I think, gave people in Philadelphia today, I think you gave them a little bit more of a clear view of what we're looking at here with these plasma injections instead of, and again, as you said, from 35,000 feet here, we're looking down on it. And from what we're seeing here, not to give like a diagnosis here, we're looking at kind of what your experience has been here.
And look, there's a lot of great media people, but you as a former player have a different perspective.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of doctors, physical therapists and whatever. And I look on Twitter, X and whatever, we sort of spawned an industry of video lookers and guessers. And my advantage is I was on the other side of the equation.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And that's what gives I think unique insight, like you have a unique insight into the game.
But see, I want people to know this. Why you're important to a guy like me, when I'm a football player, I got to trust of all the people in my room, including my coaches, okay? I may not trust my coaches sometimes because they put bad coaches in there. I got to trust you with my health. You're the guy that keeps me playing and keeps me paid. So that's why.
And let me say something about that. Just get off my little perch here. But a lot of people have said the team doctor should not be employed by the team. They shouldn't be embedded in the team, and they should just this way they can be independent and not be influenced by the team and coaches. I call BS on that. You can't develop a relationship when you're under fire. You have to develop a relationship with players and trust on the routine basis in the lunchroom, figuring out how they're wired and having rapport so that when there is stress, when you're in that moment of decision-making, there can be trust. And the first time you see a doctor and you don't know his name, do you trust that guy?
No.
You can't. But what I say, and I tell players, the reason why you can trust me is the locker room talks. And if I mess with you, Dan Sileo, 12 other people in the locker room are going to know it, and I will be out of a job, right? I told management, if I know my job is to get the best player in the team healthy and the 53rd player in the team healthy so you can cut him. I know that. Don't tell me get this player healthy so we can cut him, because that might make me not want to get him healthy because I know him. My job is to get everybody healthy. You don't need to tell me any of that. And don't put me in a position of, like, I'll give you another example. I won't name any names. One time the team said, I said, this guy can play, but he's not playing. He goes, well, if you say you can play, doctor, you need to tell him he needs to play. I said, I'm not doing that. That's your job. My job is to tell him it's safe for him to play. It's your job to tell him you need to play. There's a difference. I'm staying in my doctor's lane. My job is to say, I don't think you're going to hurt it any worse. It's safe for you to play. It's your job to say you got to play. Your position coach, head coach, GM, etc. It's not my job to force a guy to play. My job is to evaluate health. So I think with those lines, this is how you could have relationships and do things.
Without a doubt. I mean, the person I trusted the most, when Kevin O'Neill told me something, I did it. I didn't question. I questioned my coaches, Dr. Chao. I questioned my coaches more than I ever questioned my doctor. When my team physician came up to me, and Kevin O'Neill goes like this. He goes, "Hey, listen, man, you've got to sit down here. We've got to give you a little break here. Let's stay out of practice a little bit. I'm not missing anything." He would look at me and go, "Listen, you want to play Saturday or Sunday, or do you not want to play at all this year?" And he would, I think the more direct and I think that comes to what you said. You could be more direct when you have a relationship with that guy, and you could be constructive instead of destructive. So you're saying if a guy's not in the building and he's just an outsourced doctor, you're not going to build that relationship with that player, because you're right. I wouldn't trust a guy who was outside the building.
Relationships are important in all facets of life and football.
Absolutely. Tell folks how they can find you, please. You do such great work.
At Twitter or X at ProFootballDoc, but the website Sports Injury Central is sicscore.com. We have all the player updates. And for fantasy and DFS players, we have player edges, like which running back's going to pop this week, not based on the running back's health, but the health of his O-line against the health of the defensive front seven for that week. That's how granular we get. Which wide receiver might pop because the health of the DBs that he's facing, as well as the health of the right and left tackle and the health of his quarterback. It's not just the health of the wide receiver. It's the people around him and against him. And so we've been having some pretty good success.
Fantastic, man. You know how much I love you, man. I appreciate you so much. And thank you so much for finding time with me on the quick note. I got ahead of his Twitter post on Jalen Carter. Love that.
Breaking news.
Thank you, Dr. Chao.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
You got it. That is the great Dr. Chao. We appreciate him coming aboard with us. Just like that. So what was all that little nervousness? I told you to hang in there. Plasma injections. Okay. Hey, they want him for the playoff run. So I guess they're just assuming you beating the Chargers on Monday. Is that right? Damn. You guys are just putting it in there that you're beating the Chargers on Sunday. How you doing? Holy cow. I haven't even got to this other little nugget we got here today before we came on the air. So, Jalen Carter, all of you guys, you okay now? Dr. Sills and Dr. Chao have helped you? How you feeling? Philly, the Philly bad guy is here to help. I told you. I'm a helper. That's what the show is. Okay? We are a helper. Dan, one of the best interviews. Thank you. And from a doc, go figure. It was good. Hey, man, well, these people are my hey, everyone says that. Sills, you're just such a great interviewer. Well, these people are my friends. I mean, it's easy to interview your friends, isn't it? No, Sills, you're one of the greatest interviewers. Well, it's not that hard to interview my aunt. You know what I mean? Sills is